So I got to the lake about 5 o'clock this morning. I did a good few laps of the lake and I found the majority of fish fizzing in front of this swim here. I sat and I've watched for quite a while until the feeding seems to completely have dissipated now. The sun's up in the sky and I imagine the fish are probably getting into their sun lounges for the day. So the next job for me really is I want to bait up. I think I'm going to go in with some crumb because it looks to me like they're fizzing on. I think maybe they're a bit preoccupied with naturals at the moment. So I want to go in with crumb. I don't want to go spodding it. Fortunately in this swim I can thread it just over the fence there. There's a track up there and I've wet the crumb down into little balls and I'm just going to pop a few over the fence. But before I do that, I want to just have a little bit of an idea of what it was that they were feeding over, just make sure that it's clear. And I'm going to do that by boating the leading rod out there and just having a little pull. And if it's clear enough, I'll pop the marker up and then I'll walk around and I'll chuck some bait out. Right, so I've had a bit of a lead up out there. Wasn't really what I was expecting. I was hoping for lovely silky soft silt and I've got this. This is off of 2 pullbacks with just a bare lead. It must be an Amazon rainforest out there, but it doesn't smell rancid despite it being black. Ugh. This is where the fish were feeding this morning, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my my little gardener rake and I'm just going to keep taking it out to the spot. I'm just going to clear a little area and then I'm just going to see if I can get a marker float up in that zone and I'll get some bait around it and then we'll just do the night on it tonight and see what happens. There was so much activity there this morning. There must be an abundance of natural food. Doesn't make sense for me to just go and set up, you know, away from where I've quite clearly seen fish activity. You know, I set my alarm this morning at 4:30 and got here so that I could hopefully spot something like that. So it doesn't make sense for me to now just fish something entirely different just because of this. So I'm going to try and clear a spot amongst it. I don't think there is going to be a spot either side of it. I just think it's going to be thick jungle. And we'll see what happens. Right, so that's all my session prep done now. I've found the fish, found where they're feeding. I've waited, let them move out. I've gone in with the lead, found that it's actually, you know, it's really quite weedy there. I've boated out the weed rake 5 or 6 times, and I've gone slightly left and slightly right as well, just to try and clear a bit of it, try and get a bait presented in there at some point. I raked it until I just brought back a few little bits and pieces on it, and then I've gone out with the marker float, popped that up, and then I've walked around, popped some bait out, and then that's it basically. Spot's primed. Counted my wraps off, made a note of it, and now I'm gonna get off, and I'm gonna come back later on tonight. I'm gonna pop a couple of rods in the zone, and hopefully it all comes together. And it's probably just worthwhile mentioning I've done all of this morning basically with this. I've just got my leading rod, some wrap sticks. I've got my bait boat, which they are allowed on here, and the fish can be a little bit flighty, so they are handy to use. In the back here I've got my marker float attached, but otherwise that's usually in there. Variety of leads, my weed rake. I used to have a deeper, that probably would have been in there if I still had it, but sadly it got pinched, and a bucket of bait. Right, so I'm back. The rods have gone out well. The house is built, and excuse the train. I've got no dinner shot per se to do this evening because I found a pub in Barham itself. So I popped in there and I had a cheeky burger and chips and a lemonade. So I've got some snacks. There's nothing really else to do now apart from just sort of kick back and let the lake do its work. Hopefully I've done everything I need to stack as many odds in my favour as possible. Tried to get a large group of fish in front of me and then tried to apply rigs and bait to an area where they were definitely feeding this morning, not where I'd seen them at midday, because I think sometimes where you can find them at midday and where they feed can be two separate areas. So I put the effort in this morning, got here, everything is out lovely. I do have a swan in my swim. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on him. Last thing I want to now is to get wiped out. I'm feeling I'm feeling chilled. I wouldn't say I'm feeling like super duper confident or anything because it's my first season on this syndicate. I don't know the lake very well. I am very much working it out. So I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, oh, I'm brimming with confidence right now. You know, I'm going to have a 5, 6 fish hit. I'm still just looking to try and get that first bite on here very much so. And that is pretty much about it for now. Hopefully you may see me in the night or you might see me in the morning. Hopefully hoisting up something lovely. Yes, we've got one. Just resting in the net at the moment. It looks like a nice mirror, a nice linear. I'm just going to sorry, gather my thoughts. Just got to zero the sling and then I'm going to get her out. Lovely. Oh wow, look at that. That is a chunky linear. I have no idea if you can see this or not. So I'm just gonna that is a 32-pound linear mirror from Leah Lagoon. She's not going to stay around too long. Good morning. It's about 7:30 in the morning. The weather has gone into the classic low pressure sort of weather that was expected to come in. The air pressure's about 1,009, overcast, showery, really, really, really good conditions to be out in. We did have some success in the night, which was awesome. Just after midnight, middle rod, few bleeps. Thought, I'm going to get my shoes on because, you know, I'll need to go and probably check on that. And then the classic, I'm pretty sure it ripped, started curling off. So run down and grab the rod. Could feel a bit of grating almost straight away, and I just assumed that that's probably some weed. I don't think there's any structure out there. And the fight, the playing of the fish was fairly nondescript. To be honest, it just sort of came in. It didn't really fight, you know, crazily. It didn't come in like a bream either. I knew it was a carp. It did have a bit of a pull to it, but it wasn't beating me up left, right, and centre. Got it in the net, and then got everything sorted, and then the rest of the footage that you saw, it's so hard trying to capture that at night time with you know, sort of minimal equipment really, and the fish care side of it is so much more important than this video. So that's why the footage is, you know, not bang on. I just wanted to kind of get it out with the camera rolling, and whatever it kind of captured, it captured, and then give it away. 32-pound, nice linear, really nice looking fish, the sort of one you'd really want to catch. And I slipped her back, and she had plenty of go in her still. She bowled off, not too happy whatsoever. I got the rod back out, and now it's the morning. The fizzing, it seems to have is definitely a lot less, or not a lot lesser than it was yesterday morning. Maybe the angling pressures put them on edge. They do have multiple routes out of here. Good morning, Mr. Duck. They do have multiple routes out of here. They do in most swims on Leah. I've got an island to my right, an island to the back. I've got a channel round the back there, channel out the back there. They've got plenty of fire exits they can run to. So I do think, you know, the finding of them yesterday and a little bit of prep on the spot and a little bit of bait during the day while I went about my daily routine equated to that capture. Did I get lucky? There's always a chance of that, isn't there, in fishing? That's the thing, you never really know. It's like almost a puzzle that can't ever be solved, and that's kind of what I like about it. Interestingly, last night I put 2 separate rigs out yesterday. One was, you know, like a classic chod with a matching, which the flavour matched, but it was a yellow. It wasn't a match to hatch. I've done well on yellow here in spring, but it is summer now. So I was going to go with, my thinking was to go with something subtle and go with something blatant and see which worked. So I put a yellow pop-up out there on a chod yesterday, and with the bead pushed up and everything, and I'm fairly confident that that's presented in that zone. The other one, which I only really popped it out because of how intensely they were feeding there yesterday. There was a lot of bubbling going on. Maybe I should have caught more footage of that, but I just thought I'm going to treat it as a science experiment. Let's see what if I'm so lucky as to get a bite, which one gets it. So the other rod was this helicopter only here. I'd pushed the bead all the way down to the lead, so it was essentially similar to a lead clip. Let's say there's no swivel going up and down. I just pushed the bead all the way down, and I fished a 8-inch long duo fleck braid and to a flipper style hooking arrangement with a bottom bait, and then I covered the whole thing in paste, and I just took it out to the clip and I boated it. And when I boated it, I didn't really get any sensation back through the rod, which is to say, no donk, you know, no drop. And I just thought, I'm going to leave it. Not out of laziness, I'd hope. You've seen the lengths I'll go to with my prep. It wasn't left out there from laziness. It was just left out there as a pure experiment. I thought the lead's going to plug. There's no two ways about that. But with the bead pushed down, I felt like it might hook better. And then I've got the natural braid aspect of the rig, and I just thought it'll land where it lands. I was quite surprised yesterday when I saw all that bubbling that it was quite thick weed. So I thought they're going to get in there, they're going to get mooching around. I'll do what I can to prevent the hook point from burying anything. That's why I buried it in paste. And I popped it out, and that was the rod that went. When I run out and saw the alarm lit up and the spool turning, I was like, oh my God, it's the middle rod. It's basically a bottom bait in the weed. I didn't have a drop on. But it tripped up that 32 pounder, and I'm not sad about that. So lots to think about. Sometimes the more information you have, the more confusing it can be. But you know, it's interesting having a bite on a bottom bait on, you know, not clean back gravel. That's the takeaway for me. I think that's the thing that's opened my eyes a little bit. You know, when they're feeding in the silt now, in future, like glassy silt, I don't think I'll hesitate to put a bottom bait on, you know, with some paste. I also put paste around the leads as well. Just kind of, I think it feel like it just kicks around longer, the attraction. But now I'm sitting here, I'm looking out. There's the odd bit of bubbling going on, but it's a good chance I feel like they might have done the off. So I'm going to have another coffee, and I'm going to start rounding my gear up, and that might be it. So that is me now, session over. I'm basically just packing up, but one last thing, I'm not going to hurt my chances now. I'm going to stick out my marker float to the spot. I'm just going to go around, I'm just going to bait it heavily, because it might be a little while till I get back here, and it just gives me something to keep an eye on future trips. And I'm finding with this syndicate life business, you have to kind of create your own opportunities sometimes. So putting a bit of bait in every now and again ain't going to hurt you.